"Is there anyone in the lobby?" said the president. "Yes, sir. Who is it? A woman, accompanied by a servant." Everyone looked at his neighbor. "Bring her in," said the president. 5 minutes after the doorkeeper again appeared, all eyes were fixed on the door, and I, said Beecham, shared the general expectation and anxiety. Behind the doorkeeper walked a woman enveloped in a large veil, which completely concealed her. It was evident, from her figure and the perfumes she had about her, that she was young and fastidious in her tastes, but that was all. The president requested her to throw aside her veil, and it was then seen that she was dressed in the Grecian costume, and was remarkably beautiful. "Ah," said Albert, "it was she." "Who?" "Haiti." "Who told you that?" "Alas, I guess it." "But go on, Beecham." "You see I am calm and strong. And yet we must be drawing near the disclosure." M. de Mercer, continued Beecham, looked at this woman with surprise and terror. Her lips were about to pass his sentence of life or death. To the committee the adventure was so extraordinary and curious, that the interest they had felt for the Count's safety became now quite a secondary matter. The president himself advanced to place a seat for the young lady, but she declined availing herself of it. As for the Count, he had fallen on his chair. It was evident that his legs refused to support him. "Madam," said the president, "you have engaged to furnish the committee with some important particulars respecting the affair at Yanina, and you have stated that you were an eyewitness of the event. I was, indeed," said the stranger, with a tone of sweet melancholy, and with the sonorous voice peculiar to the East. "But allow me to say that you must have been very young then. I was 4 years old, but as those events deeply concerned me, not a single detail has escaped my memory. In what manner could these events concern you? And who are you, that they should have made so deep an impression on you? On them depended my father's life," replied she. "I am Haiti, the daughter of Ali Tepelini, Pasha of Yanina, and of Vasiliki, his beloved wife." The blush of mingled pride and modesty which suddenly suffused the cheeks of the young woman, the brilliancy of her eye, and her highly important communication, produced an indescribable effect on the assembly. As for the Count, he could not have been more overwhelmed if a thunderbolt had fallen at his feet and opened an immense gulf before him. "Madam," replied the President, bowing with profound respect, "allow me to ask one question. It shall be the last. Can you prove the authenticity of what you have now stated? I can, sir," said Haydée, drawing from under her veil a satin satchel highly perfumed, "for here is the register of my birth, signed by my father and his principal officers, and that of my baptism, my father having consented to my being brought up in my mother's faith. This latter has been sealed by the Grand Primate of Macedonia and Epirus, and lastly, and perhaps the most important, the record of the sale of my person and that of my mother to the Armenian merchant El Kober, by the French officer, who, in his infamous bargain with the Porte, had reserved as his part of the booty the wife and daughter of his benefactor, whom he sold for the sum of 400,000 francs. A greenish pallor spread over the Count's cheeks, and his eyes became bloodshot at these terrible imputations, which were listened to by the assembly with ominous silence. Haydée, still calm, but with a calmness more dreadful than the anger of another would have been, handed to the President the record of her sale, written in Arabic. It had been supposed some of the papers might be in the Arabian, Ramaic, or Turkish language, and the interpreter of the house was in attendance. One of the noble peers, who was familiar with the Arabic language, having studied it during the famous Egyptian campaign, followed with his eye as the translator read aloud. I, El Kober, a slave merchant, and purveyor of the harem of His Highness, acknowledge having received for transmission to the Sublime Emperor, from the French lord, the Count of Monte Cristo, an emerald valued at 800,000 francs, as the ransom of a young Christian slave of 11 years of age, named Haydée, the acknowledged daughter of the late Lord Ali Tepelini, Pasha of Yanina, and of Vasiliki, his favorite, she having been sold to me 7 years previously, with her mother, who had died on arriving at Constantinople, by a French colonel in the service of the Vizier Ali Tepelini, named Fernand Monjegu. The above-mentioned purchase was made on His Highness's account, whose mandate I had, for the sum of 400,000 francs. Given at Constantinople, by authority of His Highness, in the year 1247 of the Hijra. Signed El Kober. That this record should have all due authority, it shall bear the imperial seal, which the vendor is bound to have affixed to it. Near the merchant's signature there was, indeed, the seal of the Sublime Emperor. A dreadful silence followed the reading of this document. The Count could only stare, and his gaze, fixed as if unconsciously on Haiti, seemed one of fire and blood. Madam, said the President, may reference be made to the Count of Monte Cristo, who is now, I believe, in Paris? Sir, replied Haiti, the Count of Monte Cristo, my foster father, has been in Normandy the last 3 days. Who, then, has counseled you to take this step, one for which the court is deeply indebted to you, and which is perfectly natural, considering your birth and your misfortunes? Sir, replied Haiti, I have been led to take this step from a feeling of respect and grief. Although a Christian, may God forgive me, I have always sought to revenge my illustrious father. Since I set my foot in France, and knew the traitor lived in Paris, I have watched carefully. I live retired in the house of my noble protector, but I do it from choice. I love retirement and silence, because I can live with my thoughts and recollections of past days. But the Count of Monte Cristo surrounds me with every paternal care, and I am ignorant of nothing which passes in the world. I learn all in the silence of my apartments. For instance, I see all the newspapers, every periodical, as well as every new piece of music, and by thus watching the course of the life of others, I learned what had transpired this morning in the House of Peers, and what was to take place this evening. Then I wrote. Then, remarked the President, the Count of Monte Cristo knows nothing of your present proceedings? He is quite unaware of them, and I have but one fear, which is that he should disapprove of what I have done. But it is a glorious day for me, continued the young girl, raising her ardent gaze to heaven, that on which I find at last an opportunity of avenging my father. The Count had not uttered one word the whole of this time, His colleagues looked at him, and doubtless pitied his prospects, blighted under the perfumed breath of a woman. His misery was depicted in sinister lines on his countenance. M. de Mercer, said the President, do you recognize this lady as the daughter of Ali Tepelini, Pasha of Yanina? No, said Mercer, attempting to rise, it is a base plot, contrived by my enemies. Haiti, whose eyes had been fixed on the door, as if expecting someone, turned hastily, and, seeing the Count standing, shrieked. You do not know me? Said she. Well, I fortunately recognize you. You are Fernand Monjegu, the French officer who led the troops of my noble father. It is you who surrendered the castle of Yanina. It is you who, sent by him to Constantinople, to treat with the emperor for the life or death of your benefactor, brought back a false mandate granting full pardon. It is you who, with that mandate, obtained the Pasha's ring, which gave you authority over Selim, the firekeeper. It is you who stabbed Selim. It is you who sold us, my mother and me, to the merchant, El Kober. Assassin, 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 you have still on your brow your master's blood. Look, gentlemen, all. These words had been pronounced with such enthusiasm and evident truth, that every eye was fixed on the Count's forehead, and he himself passed his hand across it, as if he felt Ali's blood still lingering there. You positively recognize M. de Mercer as the officer, Fernand Monjegu? Indeed I do. Cried Haiti. Oh, my mother, it was you who said, you were free, you had a beloved father, you were destined to be almost a queen. Look well at that man, it is he who raised your father's head on the point of a spear, it is he who sold us, it is he who forsook us. Look well at his right hand, on which he has a large wound, if you forgot his features, you would know him by that hand, into which fell, one by one, the gold pieces of the merchant El Kober. I know him. Ah, let him say now if he does not recognize me.